LG Institute of Engineering and Technology in the Department of Electronics and Communication welcomes you to the session of Power Electronics. Today I am going to discuss about Unit 6, that is Applications of Power Electronics, with topic Batteries used in UPS. So first of all, let's first revise the last session. In the last session we have discussed about the uninterruptible power supply. Uninterruptible power supply is mainly useful when you want the continuous power supplies to some real-time applications, when it is always necessary to provide the uninterruptible power without use of any interruption in between them, like in the ICU rooms. So in the last session we have discussed about the several classification of UPS, that it can be divided into the line interactive type, the continuous backup type UPS, and about the type 1 UPS system. So now there are also some another consideration for the uninterruptible power supply that is mainly used for the reliable operation of UPS, that is batteries used for UPS. So these are the some batteries that can be used for the UPS. It is lead acid batteries and nickel cadmium batteries can be generally preferable. The capacity of batteries are expressed in a term of ampere hour, means it is multiplication of its current handling capability with the time requirement of it. We will see the different example for calculating the ampere hour efficiency of battery that can be used for this UPS. It also depends on the final discharge voltage. Final discharge voltage can also be calculated by using the current requirement term of the battery. So if the final discharge voltage is more, then the battery life is very less. Then the number of cells connected in a series, if the number of cells increases, then also the battery's operation or the time requirement is less. Next is desired terminal voltage. If the desired terminal voltage is more, then also the battery life will be affected. So these are the some parameters that you should keep in mind while using the batteries for uninterruptible power supply. Next is battery voltages. Here we divide the different parameter of battery voltages with its value. So normal voltage is 2.4 voltage, nominal voltage for this is 2 volt. You can use these values in the example. If in the example the term that is mentioned is if battery using the normal voltage, and if the value is not given, then you should remember these values for the battery voltages. Like for the normal voltage it is 2.4, for nominal it is 2 volt, for the final discharge voltage it is 1.8 volt. These are the ideal values for the batteries operating for the UPS. Float or trickle voltage means between the charging and discharging point of battery there is a voltage present, is called as a trickle voltage, and it is 2.15 volt. The boost voltage is 2.6 volt and extended charging voltage is 2.65 volt. So these are the different battery voltages, its parameter and the values. Now next is battery charging and discharging process. So here we take the battery charging and discharging graph for the lithium ion battery. So here the cell voltage versus time graph is there. For the charging you can see in the blue color that the charging voltage, and between the discharging voltage there is one point when it get intersect. So this point is called as a trickle point, and at that point you can mention the voltage value by using the previous table. So this can be used for the battery charging graph. Next is for the battery charging, first the terminal voltage increases with the constant voltage, means as the voltage increases with the time increases. So that's why the graph is exponentially increasing type. And then at particular point, means at a changeover point, constant voltage to constant current graph, means voltage to current will be changed, that is called as intersect point, and at that intersect point the voltage that is present is called as trickle voltage. You can find the trickle voltage value from the previous table that we have already discussed, or you can also find out by using the graph also. After the trickle point, the trickle charge is given to the full battery voltage, means once again it gets increases up to the whatever the maximum value required for the UPS. So these are the normal charging process that is divided into the three parts. First, terminal voltage increases up to the constant, then it reaches to some point. At that point, the two graphs will intersect, means you can say that constant current can be converted to the voltage mode, and after that again it gets increases. So these are the three steps that can be used for the charging of UPS. Now let's talk about the battery efficiency. Battery efficiency can be in terms of the current and time, and in terms of power and time, means it can be either ampere hour efficiency or watt hour efficiency. So first is ampere hour efficiency. Ampere hour efficiency is mainly the ratio of ampere hour taken from the battery while discharging it to the ampere hour while charging. Means discharging efficiency divided by the charging efficiency of the battery can be denoted as ampere hour efficiency. The mainly efficiency for ampere hour is up to 90 to 95. Here the 90 to 95% of ampere hour efficiency is possible. Here the several losses affect the battery efficiency of in ampere hour. Means if the losses are more, then the ampere hour efficiency will get decreased. It also depends on the current and time. Why current and time? Because it is mainly the multiplication of the current term and time. So if any of the value will change, then it affect on ampere hour efficiency. It does not consider the battery terminal voltage. So this can be understood by the equation and example of it. The next efficiency for this is watt hour efficiency. Watt hour efficiency is the power efficiency, and its value is 75 to 80%. Means compared to ampere hour efficiency, it gets decreased because it takes into consideration the ampere hour efficiency also. So it is basically the ratio of energy supplied by battery while charging divided by energy supplied while discharging. Same way, in case of ampere hour, we take the current in charging mode and current in discharging mode, and in this case we take the energy supplied while charging and energy supplied while discharging. So it can also be called as the energy efficiency because it takes into consideration the power. So if you want to write down the equation for it in terms of ampere hour efficiency, then it can be given by watt hour efficiency equal to ampere hour efficiency into average voltage while discharging divided by average voltage while charging. Means discharging efficiency divided by charging efficiency. Now let's take one example related to it. This is the problem statement. A 2 volt of lead acid cell supplies the constant current of 25 ampere for 5 hours. The average cell EMF, means voltage, for discharging is 1.95 volt, and while charging it gets the 30 ampere for 4.5 hours to restore the original voltage. Now you have to calculate the ampere hour as well as the watt hour efficiency. So here the two currents will be given. Please note that the first current is 25 hour and the second current while charging is 30 ampere. So we will use these two values for calculating the ampere hour efficiency. Once we have calculated the ampere hour efficiency, then we will put this ampere hour efficiency's answer into our watt hour efficiency. So let's start with the solution. First is ampere hour efficiency. So for equation for it is ampere hour while discharging divided by ampere hour while charging. We have both the values, so let's put it. Ampere hour while discharging is given 25 ampere for 5 hours. Ampere hour means current into time. So 25 is current value and 5 hours is time value. So ampere hour is 25 into 5. Ampere hour while charging means it gets charged. Here if you see the problem statement, it is mentioned that the reference cell is charged at 30 ampere for 4.5 hour. Means it is a multiplication of current and time. Means 30 into 4.5. So it gives us answer 0.9259. If you want to calculate in a percentage term, then you have to multiply this value with 100. So it gives answer 92.59 percentage. So this is the answer for ampere hour efficiency. Now let's take the case of watt hour efficiency. Watt hour efficiency is calculating by using the ampere hour efficiency. Ampere hour efficiency is already calculated in the last slide. So it is ampere hour efficiency into average voltage while discharge divided by average volt while charging. That is already mentioned in the problem statement. So let's put the values over here. Ampere hour efficiency is 92%, means you have to put the ampere hour efficiency over here. It is 0.9259 into average voltage while discharging. So it is 1.95 volt and average voltage while charging, that is 2 volt. So let's put the values in the above equation. We get 0.9259 into 1.95 divided by 2. So if you calculate this term, it gives answer that is 0.9027, means 90.27 percentage. This is our watt hour efficiency's answer. Now the next topic is DC motor. In this lecture we just read the introductory part of the DC motor. So first of all, let's first discuss that how it can be controlled or for what purpose it can be used. So it can be controlled by AC to DC converter. Means either it can be controlled by the rectifier, means its speed, its voltage can be controlled by the rectifier circuit, or it can be controlled by DC to DC converter, means you can use the chopper circuit for controlling the action of DC motor. What are the performance parameters that you should keep in the mind for the performance of DC motor? It's the torque speed characteristic of it, then the nature of motor circuit, and average motor armature currents. These are the parameters that you should use. The next is RMS motor armature current, that you can calculate by using the third parameter also, and peak motor armature current is the maximum value of the current that you can also find out from the third parameter. So if you know about the third one parameter, then you can easily calculate the fourth and fifth one from it, that we will see in the further lectures. This is the diagram for the DC motor operations that you can use. Here the various resistive inductor term is there. Here the torque generator will be seen. We will discuss in detail about the operation of the DC motor in the next lecture. This is basically the introductory circuit of DC motor, that how it can be seen. So here the inductor and resistor are there, and its speed can be controlled by giving the torque to it. Here let's first discuss the various parameters that is seen in the previous diagram. So first is instantaneous back EMF. Instantaneous back EMF is actually the multiplication of three different terms, that is armature constant of motor denoted by K, the flux introduced by it, and instantaneous speed. Now the speed is in the rotation per minute, so RPM and the K. So it is a multiplication of three terms, that is the armature constant, flux and speed. If you want to make the equation for the average back EMF, then it is again the multiplication of three terms, but here instead of using the instantaneous speed, average speed will be taken for calculating the average back EMF. In case of torque, to finding out the torque developed by the motor, you should use the armature constant, flux, and instead of the average speed and instantaneous speed, you should use the average RMS current for it. So these are the three different parameters that you can calculate by using these three equations. It can also be used in the example to calculate the instantaneous back EMF or average back EMF or torque development. Now let's see the different modes of operation. So here it can be operated in a 4 different modes: reverse generator, forward motor, reverse motor and forward generator. So here in case of first, let's talk about the forward motor. So here the polarity of voltage is in a forward mode, means on the upper side the positive is there and on the lower side negative is there. So it will be operated in a clockwise direction. You can also know the current direction for the forward motor, that it will goes from left to right side, means in a clockwise direction it get operated. If you see the diagram of the reverse motor, in this case in reverse motor the polarity of the motor will get reversed, and obviously the direction of motor operation will also be reversed in this case, means it gets into anti-clockwise like this, and even the current direction is also changed. If you want to see the forward generator and reverse generator also, then in this case the voltage polarity will be same, but the current direction is totally in the opposite direction. In that means if you operate in a motor mode, then the current direction is from the left to right side, if means source to generator side. If you want to see the generator mode, then it will be in a reverse direction, means the current direction will be opposite in case of motor and generator. So first let's see in the tabular manner. First, forward motor means the supply voltage is positive, means polarity is positive on the upper side and negative on the lower side. If you see this third quadrant operation, that is negative, means the polarity of voltage is negative on the upper side and positive on the lower side. That's why over here supply voltage is positive in first case and negative in the third case. If you see this third column, then the supply current is positive because of the supply voltage, and in this case it is negative because the supply voltage is negative. But the direction of power flow in both the cases in the same direction, means from the source to motor side or source to load side. So that's why here it is written that for the forward motoring as well as for the reverse motoring, it will be from source to motor. In case of rectifier and chopper, we write the term source to load, but here we talk about the motor. So here in case of direction of motor, we write the term source to motor and motor to source. Now in case of regenerative motoring and regenerative braking, what are the direction of the supply voltage or the power? So here in case of reverse motoring, the polarity is same, it's on the positive on the upper side and negative on the lower side, and that's why the supply voltage is positive. In case of regenerative blocking, the positive on the lower side and negative on the upper side, that's why supply voltage is negative. And because it is opposite in a nature, the operation is an opposite in a nature, that's why here in both the case supply current is negative in this case and supply current is positive in this case, but the current direction will be the same either you use the regenerative motoring or regenerative braking. So that's why your direction of power is from motor to source. So these are the different four modes of operation. We will see the detail of this reverse motoring, regenerative braking and different operation terms of DC motors in the next session. Up to this, if you have any doubts or queries, you can ask me on my email ID. Thank you for watching.